Welcome to Voices in Hyperspace. This is a podcast where friends get together and talk all things sci-fi. Our current mission is to watch and review the hits 90s sci-fi series Babylon 5. I'm Legendary Black Lion.
I'm Captain Mela Asylum.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday.
And we are looking at Season 3, Episode 21, entitled Shadow Dancing. I gotta tell you, I had a lot of mixed feelings about this episode. I'm gonna go straight off the bat. My impression is the first part of the episode is just pure exposition. I know they've been kind of doing that for a couple of episodes where they're just like, okay, so let me have Ivanova explain what's going on, right? They try to have the characters show you what's going on, but really it's just to tell the story and get the plot where it needs to go. And the movement of the characters are pretty small, except for one character who has a lot of progress during the episode. And then at the end of the episode, two other characters are at the beginning of a thing that's going to move them forward, but that's going to happen in the next episode and honestly the next season. And just to remind you, this is not the season finale. That's going to be next week. This is the episode before the season finale. Before we jump into it, do y'all have any thoughts?
I like the journey that Franklin goes through with his mental health, and actually that they show.
Yeah.
Like, they do a really good job of showing like what goes on in the psyche when it comes to like an what you call it, an epiphany or existential crisis. They show those very well, but when it comes to like the regular movement of everybody today, everybody during the day or during what events is going on, it's more exposition than them showing it, because like clearly you could show people interacting with each other and put information in it, but they don't do that.
Yeah. Honestly, if you think about it, there are only two action sequences in the show, in this episode. One is with Franklin, and it's very short, but it's important. And then the other one is a ship battle that kind of doesn't really show much, you know?
I think you miss it.
Yeah, it's a lot of explaining like, oh, we are trying to do this. Oh, we're trying to do that. Oh, we need to do this. Oh, we need to do that. Someone is saying this. Someone is saying that. And then Franklin is having a whole like mental health crisis as he is dying, which I don't blame him. I don't blame him. But like, you know, when you're on the cusp of death, you're probably rethinking a lot about your life, you know? So
yeah, his life flashed through, in front of his eyes.
Right. So
as himself.
Yeah, as the asshole version of himself. Yeah. All right, let's jump into it. So we open up, and it is Delenn is inside of the council chambers, and she's really pleading with the council members like, hey, we need you to jump in to be part of this plan. We need your ships. And they're all like, how are we going to give you anything when you don't tell us what the plan is? And she's like, okay, look, you just got to trust us. And Lanier jumps in. And he's like, the reason why we won't tell you is because we run the risk of the enemy knowing what we're doing. In other words, it sounds reasonable. It sounds smart. But he's saying, one of y'all is a rat. One of y'all's got a leak. Somebody's listening to one of y'all. And y'all are not the most careful bunch of people, right?
There's a leak in the boat. I understand the perspective of all the different alien races that, like, we've all been at each other's throats, and now there's a bigger enemy, and we're supposed to fall into the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and now give you all our resources with not enough information to make me feel confident that this is a good idea. I really do not like the hierarchy where those at the top can just be like, you're on a need to know basis. That strategy really just does not work for me, even though I totally understand. I'm trying to keep a tight lid on the information to prevent the leaks, but I can understand why it was so difficult for them.
Also, you have to think like these are ambassadors, right? So they got to report to their governments, and then the information goes through however their government structures are, and the level of security that each of them have. And then, it goes down the chain, it comes up the chain, then it comes back, right? And the whole need to know thing also probably, well, you got to think about it too. The whole need to know thing is a military tactic. Not all of these not all of these ambassadors are military minded people. They're government minded people. They're all about bureaucracy. They're trying to negotiate trade routes. So there could also be that they're just not military minded enough to think like this information needs to be safeguarded and protected so the enemy doesn't come and blow up our worlds. So that's another thing that occurred to me, because I do feel you on that. It's like, you want me to do something, why don't you tell me what it is you want me to do? But then at the end they were like, okay, check it out. We're going to give you all the ships, but you putting all of us at risk. We are super vulnerable. On the one hand, the audience, we're like, oh, the non-aligned worlds finally cooperated. But then on the characters, they're frustrated because they're like, they don't trust us because like they don't know everything. But if they knew everything, it will put them at greater risk. Delenn even says, we've been truthful with everything that we share with you so far. Like, we saved lives. We told you about the telepaths. We even give you telepaths. Like, that's a major tactical advantage that y'all didn't have before. It's like, you got to trust us now. And I can see her frustration is like, I can't tell you everything, but I've been 100% from the beginning to now. Maybe you should trust me a little bit. But I also get like, how do I know that you're not luring us to be extremely weak? So when all of this is over, we're going to get invaded by humans or Minbari. I don't know. It's a question.
Yeah. Also, like with Delenn being honest, she's not good at not being honest. So it's still, she would like, if Sheridan had came to them, he would have been confident, like, this is the plan. You have the information. Are you with us? And she's like, well, I told you everything. She's not coming off as someone like you want to be confident to give your military strength to. Like,
that's a good point.
Like, we don't really believe you because she can't lie.
Please believe me.
And technically, she isn't lying, but at the same time, she is. But then that's what she does.
Yeah. So we switched to Sheridan. He's talking to Ivanova and Marcus, and he's basically saying, like, look, we're about to send y'all on a mission. Sector 83 is where all this action has been happening for months, and the shadows are hurting civilians and refugees to this area. It's only a matter of time before they strike. Sheridan showing his tactical mind. And he's like, I need y'all to go out there and keep an eye out, because as soon as they start to attack, we need to know. We're going to have a fleet in hyperspace. When they attack, we're going to attack. And that's why Delenn needed to get them all of those ships. They're sending Marcus and Ivanova out with one of the White Stars. The mission is to watch and not engage. Like, y'all just let us know. And then Sheridan says, we know that if something happens, you pretty much have just a 50-50 chance of getting home. So if they find you, make sure you do everything you can, because it's almost sure to be a suicide mission. The two people on the show who seem to would absolutely appreciate this, accept it, and revel in it are Marcus and Ivanova. They do not protest or anything. They're like, all right, I get what you're saying. So let's go out there and do the thing.
And that kind of goes with Delenn not telling him about the other ships.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as he found out about the ships, now he's sending them out on missions.
Yep. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
On suicide missions. As soon as he gets it, he sent them out suicide missions.
All right, we need to blow these ships up.
Like, okay, let's go, let's risk everything. We got
to
it.
play with. So we flashback and we see that Delenn returns to the council room. That's where the Drazi ambassador is like, hey, we're going to give you everything we got. It's going to cost us a lot if you're wrong, Delenn. Delenn goes to inform Sheridan. And, it's basically they're having this frustration, like they still don't trust us. And we went over that. Like, yeah, of course they don't trust y'all. Y'all, especially you, Delenn. Miss, I know something about time travel and destiny in the Minbari who did not come from Minbari, and some other stuff that we're not talking about yet, but she knows. So yeah, they have their commitment for ships, not their full faith in the War Council. While they're about to take off, Ivanova contacts Sheridan from the White Stars, like, hey, we're about to roll out, and we see a really cool sequence of them leaving. And this part, and this is all in Act 1, we're seeing just kind of like a check-in with all the characters. And it's kind of cool. So we already checked in with Delenn, Sheridan, Ivanova, Marcus. Now we're about to check in with Garibaldi. I don't know where he is. He's out in the open, in the public, right? And Zach approaches him and invites him to lunch, and Garibaldi just turns it down. He's like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. And Zach is like, well, what's wrong? And Garibaldi expresses guilt about not doing more to help Franklin. And we know the deal with Franklin. It's been a few days, maybe a couple weeks now, right? Where he's been on walkabout. And
this gotta be.
Yeah. And Garibaldi is like, man, I don't know. I felt like I could have done more. And he breaks down and he goes, some people walk away because they want to be alone. Some people walk away to see if you care enough to walk into hell after them. And I was like, that's a hard position to be in, because it's like, how do you know when you're pushing too hard or not pushing enough, right? With some people.
Right. I was going to say, it seemed like he knew how to like stand back from Ivanova.
Yeah.
Because she does need her space.
Yep.
But with Franklin, he don't know what he want or need.
Well, also, when he confronted Ivanova, he was coming from a position of power, but he also showed that he cared. He came from a position of care that she appreciated, because she was in an extremely vulnerable position, and she wasn't trying to push him away. She was just trying to like keep herself protected. But then she was like, you know what? I accept it. And instead of him coming down on her, he showed her care. He was like, you know what? This whole Gold Channel breach, it was a mistake in the equipment. It'll never happen again, right? Right? Right. When he approached Franklin went full addict mode and was like, don't blame me because you never saw a bottle that you didn't like. He just snapped his head off. I was just like, God. Franklin saw care as an attack, and he attacked.
Yeah, Ivanova is terrifying, but at the same time, she's approachable.
Yeah, and
that makes sense.
And the thing is, she admits her wounds. She admits her wounds, the things that she's invulnerable with, and the things that she's afraid of. Right? She admits all of that stuff. Franklin is Superman. Franklin don't got no problems. Franklin is never wrong. Franklin knows how to feed you. He knows your exact diet. He knows your sleep patterns. he knows your blood type. He knows just a little too much, right? So that's what he ran into. Zach says, I swear, probably the smartest thing that any character has said in the entire show. Zach says, well, he's got to get his head screwed on right. You cannot do that for him. And I was just like, gosh, come on, Zach. Come on, Zach. Where was that earlier in the series? This dude he got deep with it, you know?
That is the hard lesson that he learned.
Yep.
Being in that cult.
Yep. But it was a lesson he learned, but he probably also learned it about himself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's very profound, because like we don't really, I don't see Zach being that aware of things, but maybe he is, and he's just, had very few opportunities for it to come out,
Yeah, but he got to be aware of himself during that situation.
Yeah.
Because he went into a situation thinking it was one thing, and then figured out pretty quickly that it was something completely different. And getting out of it wasn't something he could easily just go to his friend and say, "I need help."
Right. I also want to commend Zach for the way that he is showing care to Garibaldi. He's talking to him like he's friends now. Like they've completely mended their bridges, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go grab something to eat? You know, you need time to chill." Because I mean, Garibaldi hasn't had the easiest time in the world. He watched his former good friend just travel into who knows when through times. It's a pretty wild situation that he had recently been through. Probably doesn't feel so good about it. The next sequence I thought was pretty funny. We get to see a little bit of Down Below, and I call her Space Karen. You know,
That's what she is.
yeah. She's ranting about how being in Down Below is supposedly this marketplace. I don't see anything that I would want to have in my house. It's dirty. How come this place can't be very, very well kept? Why are there so many homeless people? Oh, I think I heard that it's been like this because they had their little revolution. And I'm like, that's interesting because Down Below was down below before the revolution. It was an earth problem, right? And the guy that she's with, apparently, I don't know if that's her husband or what, but his name is James. Her name is Barbara. His name is James. We're gonna call her Space Karen, and we'll call him the guy. He points out like, well, we have homeless on Earth, and Space Karen, she quickly rebuts with like propaganda. What, they fix the economy? People who are poor is poor because of social reasons, not economic reasons. Which, that sounds extremely familiar and pertinent to 2025 today, right?
Yeah, it also sounds like that other episode where Ivanova was talking to those diplomats, and they were like the one who wanted to sleep with her.
Yeah, the alien is like, oh, I like how y'all separate the genetically inferior. Like, oh my god. That was he just says it so easily with his eugenics. I might have this part mixed up, but Space Karen was like, you always get these ideas in your head when you go to your mother's house. and all he says is like, well, she reads a lot.
Wow. Oh, so it's his idea to go to Babylon 5.
Who knows? Maybe. And but they both
traveling.
Right, they're traveling. They're straight up tourists. They got a little girl with them, but it's like James. Whatever James's issue is, he doesn't sound extremely well informed himself. Just slightly better than Space Karen. They have a little girl with them, and she's bouncing a ball. The ball runs into Franklin. Franklin becomes just kind of I don't know what he's doing. He's like making faces and delighting the little girl. I don't know. And then,
actually paying attention to the child and not the mom.
Right. And Space Karen is like, stay away from him. You don't know where he's been. I don't.
Like, you don't know where your child has been.
Right. So this is basically us catching up with Franklin Down Below. He's, rubbing shoulders with a bunch of not so upright characters in the station. But I do have a question because they mentioned this near the end.
Mm-hmm.
So Franklin basically resigned. Is that basically him saying like, I quit and I'm gonna live in Down Below because I'm poor now? Or, I mean, I know he's on Walkabout, but is he like straight up not going back? Is he like, yeah, I'm gonna just be poor?
He said he didn't know if he was going back, and when he first went on Walkabout, Ivanova had asked about him because records that show that he hadn't been in his quarters, which means they're still his quarters.
Yeah. Okay. So they're just empty, and he's out there.
Yeah, it sounds more like he's on sabbatical. but he says that he resigns.
Yeah.
But they're sitting there like, "You coming back, right?" He's like, "I don't know."
I guess he's trying not to hold up the position just in case somebody else is gonna get it. But yeah, it's limbo. We quickly check back in with Delenn. No, I'm sorry. We quickly check back in with Ivanova. She wakes Marcus up from a nap on the Minbari style beds. It's like at a diagonal slant, and it honestly looks like a dead body on a slab the way he sleeps. So it's just a little funny seeing that. But on the White Star, as soon as Marcus wakes up, he uses his Minbari skills to check in on the ship and all that stuff. And then he compliments Ivanova, and she's all stricken, but she's like, "What does that mean?" And Marcus lies, and he's like, "Oh, it's my words are inadequate for the burden of my heart. Thank you, Casanova." She was
He was
feeling out
flirting
too.
so hard.
She was feeling
He's
out.
always flirting with her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, she was feeling that, but then she was like, "Oh, okay, that's it." But we get a little bit of explanation about you can't finish your Minbari training unless you can think and speak their language. But basically, that part ends with Ivanova trying to go to sleep in a Minbari bed now of her own, and she doesn't know how to do it. She keeps sliding down it which is kind of funny, which is pretty hilarious to me.
It was so funny. It made me think about those inverted situations to help you stretch out your back and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting lore note. There would be an update as to why the beds are like that, which is basically the Minbari think that laying on a flat horizontal plane makes it seem like you're closer to death, so they go horizontal, so you're not dead, and also probably so you won't sleep all the way.
So you can stay partially conscious. And they're probably trying to, what do you call it? Lucid dream.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good point. They probably
So
have
you control your
to.
thoughts even when you're dead. Yeah. I mean, not when you're dead, when you're asleep. Sorry.
Well, that's some good tricks there, Minbari. Okay. They're one with the universe.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So we check back in with Delenn. She's informing Sheridan of the fleet that's gonna come get them, which is a Minbari fleet. Sheridan, honestly, up until he's been very frustrated all the way up to this point, and he's like, I don't think we should go because we got Ivanova's out, Marcus is out, Franklin's doing whatever he's doing, Garibaldi is swamped. I think we should stay here. But Delenn is like, no. We need to go to the front lines. We got this taken care of. We need to go. So what she kind of does is lure him with something. She says, when this whole thing is over, we'll spend the night together. And that just completely snaps Sheridan out of whatever he was thinking and his frustration. He's like, what? And she's like, and she smiles this big, bright, coy smile. No, not like that.
Not the human way.
Not that way, silly.
Rabbit chicks are for kids.
But she explains this Minbari ritual, which is basically the man sleeps and the woman watches. This happens when Minbari are close the way that they've gotten close, which is more of a romantic style of connecting, right? So she's basically gonna watch him for 3 nights, and he's like, "Well, watch me for what?" And she's like, "Well, we'll see your true face when you're asleep. Your true face comes out." And then the whole thing is if I don't like what I see, I can request this whole thing be over. I can complain, and I can cut your access off to my family. That's the little coy penis joke that they were playing in the 90s.
Yeah.
Probably referring back to Lorena Bobbitt. But
Oh, yeah. That kind of sounds slightly scientific, because when you're asleep, that's when the subconscious mind is awake, and your facial expressions during your sleep reflect your subconscious mind. So they could have accomplished the same thing by getting high. I mean,
Wow. I mean, yeah, but it was the 90s. They couldn't
it's
have that discussion right away.
no. But sleeping is a safer way of doing it, I guess. Don't take my word for this, anybody. I'm just saying. I'm just saying what comes to mind.
Comes to my mind. Who is watching people sleep?
That's what I was about to ask. That's what I was about to ask, because there are people who watch other people sleep. Let's move on. Basically, at the end of that sequence, when Sheridan asks, like, well, what if you like what you see? She goes, later. I'll explain to you after. Sounded real coy.
Then you find out how to have intercourse on this horizontal slab of hard surface.
So
This is a better way of picking your mate. Because I mean, people like blame, especially women, for like, well, you were the one that was with them. It's like we don't have a process of sorting through your psyche before we sleep with you.
nope.
They do, apparently.
They do. So people, remember, be like the Midbari, sleep with each other for 3 nights, watch each other sleep, and if you don't like it, ghost them.
Go there.
Not
cut off their acting.
Oh my goodness.
So down below, Franklin, being who he is, walks around the corner. He sees the guy getting like really beat up by like 5 other guys. Sorry, I'm laughing because the setup is so perfect. This guy's getting hemmed up by 5 other guys, and they're really about to beat him. And Franklin's like, hey, get off of him. We can talk about this. And they're like, they just turn straight on Franklin, and they start bullying him. They pull out a knife and they stab him in the gut.
That looked like a whole like a shank, not a shank. What is the really long sword looking thing that you cut down?
Metal.
Like the weed
machete.
when you're going. Yes, there we go. That's the word. It looked like a machete. I thought he would have been dead.
Same. But he took a nasty stab, and it was gross. They left him, and the guy that he was saving, he's like, look, man, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. It's like, no, can't help. He's like, I can't. They'll arrest me too. I was selling.
You can say, hey, somebody is hurt down below. You can like send a smoke signal or something. Yeah, that was pretty trash of him.
So Franklin is basically left and down below after a major stab, bleeding out. Yeah. He's crawling around and he's bleeding, and it's gross. You see like this nasty blood stain, and he's crying out for help, and there's nobody around. Back on the White Star, Ivanova finally gets comfortable. She took all of the cushions from the other beds and put them on the floor. As soon as she lays down and exhales, that's when Marcus calls her to the bridge. And I'm like, she never gets to sleep, ever.
No.
Or they always interrupt her sleep. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so she hops up, she goes to the bridge, and basically the issue is a shadow ship appeared, but they the way that the White Star was idling, it was in the shadow of a moon. Marcus was like, I didn't want to use the ship's engines because they would be able to see us. And Ivanova was like, okay, good, don't. And then he goes, well, that's the thing. We were using this moon as cover. We were in its eclipse and it's completely dark, but we're about to come out of that shadow. And as soon as he says that, the sun peeks over and it illuminates the ship, and the shadow ship is like, oh, I see someone there.
Hello.
And so the White Star immediately sends a signal like, hey, we've been discovered. We need some help. Franklin is all the way out. You can hear a nasty hoarseness in his voice as he asks him for help. And then we get to see a very spry, live and well version of himself wearing the full black B5 uniform that appears. And he's on like, whoa, you were hoping to find yourself. Here I am.
Yep. You're like, That was his whole dad, like in his own body, talking shit to him.
Hmm. And
You are your father's son.
right. And it's wild because I mean we only heard a little bit about Franklin's beliefs, walkabout. He's a foundationalist, and what we don't even like. I don't think that we really know what that means per se. There are bits and pieces of it that were shared. He's confronting the thing that he believes he needs to confront, but he's like near death, and he needs some help, and he's about to receive it. Himself calls him out too. He's like, look at you, always trying to be the hero. And I think that's funny because me and Mel have been calling that out all season. His hero complex. So yeah, the White Star destroys the shadow ship, but as soon as they destroy it, through hyperspace comes more shadow ships. Actually, an entire shadow fleet, and they are screwed. And the reason why is because the shadow vessel had damaged the White Stars. The jump engines were offline, and so was the auto repair system. So they were just kind of hanging out there, waiting to get blowed up. So they send the signal to get help. The Minbari fleet receives the signal, and Sheridan is preparing to respond. I feel like I missed a part, but I do want to talk about this. There is a part of the Minbari ship that Delenn and Sheridan are on. She's like, I wanted to show you something. And she carries him into this dark room. And he's like, what is this place? And she explains that this is the tactical center. We will be able to command the ships and watch the battle from here. And he's like, I don't get it. Like, I don't see any view screens. And she's like, you'll understand. We will see that come to use. Actually, they do a great job in this episode and making that meaningful later on. So,
and it looks a lot like where she has her meetings with the Great Council.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, it's a really cool mixture of technology and religion when they do that. Because you have to have some sophisticated technology, but they are very solemn and reverent when they're in that tactical center, right? So we finally get the confrontation between Franklin and the manifestation of his inner self. Maybe his shadow. So Franklin is doing shadow work as he's bleeding out on the deck.
That sounds right.
And this version of Franklin is, I'll say he's a bit of a dick. Because he comes out the box. He's like, yeah, okay, you said you were looking for me. Okay, I'm here. And this is he starts to blame him. He's like, look, you have all your life you've run away from everything. You ran away from home. You went and talked to your father. All you did was just walk away. And when he said that part, I started to think avoidant attachment style. Mm-hmm. And honestly, everything that we've seen of Franklin makes a whole lot of sense. There are different ways that he is demonstrating his avoidance. He actually doesn't take responsibility for anything either. If you ever noticed.
Yeah. He has to be right.
He has to be right. And if he's not right, well, it's your fault. He didn't have any patience for his internship, so he just didn't do that on Earth. He went on like a hippie vagabond hitchhike spree instead of going into an internship and working. He didn't give up his notes on the Minbari biology from the Earth Minbari War, and he burned them, which is holy crap. That's wild. He turned to work to run away from his personal life, and he uses stems to run away from work. And I'm just like, God, this dude is like mainlining shadow work right now. Like, who does this all in a few minutes?
Right. His shadow self, which is a great term. Yeah. He sounds like a alpha male.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you didn't stick to the thing. You didn't do the thing. You just ran away. You
take responsibility for your own actions. You just run away like a little beta.
Yeah, everything except for the responsibility part. Oh, okay. Most of them don't know how to be responsible for their own actions. They just blame everybody else.
Well, that's the thing too. When they claim that they're trying to hold somebody responsible. They're not trying to hold anybody responsible. They're trying to humiliate someone, and that's their version of responsibility.
Yeah.
The version of responsibility that they have is punishment and not actual like relationship and accountability.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, we got that, and Franklin probably would rather die than have to face all his stuff. But,
That's most people, though.
Yeah, true. And so while Franklin is almost dying, Dick Franklin, hey, his name is Richard, right? No, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't that his dad's name too?
Maybe that's what his dad is. Yeah,
His dad's name is Richard too.
Okay.
Which we thought it was funny because he was acting like a dick, and his name is Richard.
Yes. So Dick Franklin is like, okay, since you're about to die, I want to know, what do you want? What do you really want? And that's when Franklin is like, I want to do it over again. And Dick version of Franklin is like, okay, you say you want to live again. You better stand up. You better get up on your feet. Don't you go dying on me now. And I thought that was great because like whatever is going on in his psyche is like really, it turned inward, and it is forcing him to take whatever that negative perspective of himself is, and it's motivating him to stay alive. And that's pretty powerful. Like, you need to turn your weaknesses and your dark side not on yourself, but to yourself, and get better from that. And also, without going too far into it, he's acknowledging like that he's there. He's not trying to run his darker self away. He's listening. He is not necessarily negotiating with himself, but he's confronting himself and working with himself.
Making friends with your demon.
Yeah.
And that's part of shadow work too, accepting those dark parts about you. And a lot of the strongest things that we can do is use that. Your shadows are strong, like that, and that's a strength that's a part of you. And it's only negative if you use it in a negative way. These are all tools.
And while we're saying this, it just dawned on me too that the episode is called Shadow Dancing. And I'm at the beginning of it, you're just thinking of like the shadows, like the ships, but the shadows, the darker selves. And now that we have 2025 language, like your shadow self. Anyway, yeah.
Well, that's pretty ancient. It was just not. It's now popular now, but that's always been.
It's popular, and it's kind of like more connected to what people are doing and using in psychology and in counseling.
Yeah, when in the 90s it wasn't as popular and people didn't know about it, but now all the population knows about it, so we can say it and someone will understand.
Yeah.
When they said it back then, you were just thinking about the crazy aliens.
Right. Yeah. So the ship battle commences. The combined fleet with the Minbari vessels, they engage the shadows. And you see Sheridan take control, and it's really good the way that he's barking commands, basically telling get your telepaths in place, make sure that you have your escort ships with them to protect them, and he's pointing out who's going to go where and do what. And so they engage the shadow ships. Now as the battle goes, because this this is a very short sequence. As the battle goes, they defeat the shadows. They blow up a lot of shadow vessels, but the shadow vessels also took out a lot of the Alliance vessels. So it's like the Alliance won, but with like heavy casualties.
Yeah.
And as they turn those vessels away, they are reveling a little bit in the victory. And there is a really cool scene that happens on the deck of the tactical center. You see Sheridan and Delenn. They're looking at each other, but behind them is the hollow projection of the space of the confrontation. And you see all the ships flying by, and the camera zooms in as the ships are flying by, and you see Sheridan and Delenn embrace, and it's so dramatic. It's like that is why they did that whole sequence, just so they could have that scene. And that scene is important because this shows the growth of the relationship between Sheridan and Delenn, but it's also it's this beautiful relationship is blossoming in the middle of like this horrible tragic war. And I wrote down, like, why didn't this shot appear in any of the promos? Like, this should be in the opening sequence of the show. It was so good. It's only like 3 seconds long too, but it's great.
It looks like in other shows where they just created it for the promo.
Yeah, right.
But it's actually like just a part of the show. Maybe they wanted it to be like something better than the promos. Like, if you come after what we do send you for the promo, you get this. This is your prize for staying, coming in on.
Yeah. After their brief little grim celebration, we find that Franklin is found in down below. They find him. They rush him to med lab. He's in med lab recovering. He's experiencing his delirium, which apparently he was the entire time. Maybe. Yeah, he's in med lab experiencing his delirium, but he's recovering. But it's a very long ordeal. But this is kind of like, the culmination of him having his experience, because while he physically has to recover and heal from it, he also has to emotionally and mentally recover too. And I think that's really big. Like, that's kind of what this whole part represents for him. The fleet gets back to get Babylon 5. And this is, all right, this part makes me think, like, this is what makes me think this episode had to be written this way, because they stuffed in even more story and lore after the major quote unquote victory that should have ended the episode, right? So the fleet gets back to Babylon 5 and they're all like asking questions like, how did everything go? Sheridan is like, we did good, we didn't do great, but we did okay. So you can't just be happy. You got to realize, like, hey, we are a little bit vulnerable right now. And Garibaldi asks the question, like, okay, well, how long will it be before the shadows retaliate? And Sheridan's like, see, that's the thing. We don't know. They know what we know now. And we're sitting ducks. So, like, we need to be ready. So when they do come, we're not just vulnerable to their attack. Garibaldi visits Franklin in med lab. And I think this part is hilarious because he talks to Franklin, and while they're having that conversation, Garibaldi is like, don't do this. Don't ever do this to me again. So showing his way that he cares, and, in his gruff Garibaldi style. We see a small scene in hyperspace. There's a shadow ship. And from that shadow ship, a very small vessel launches from the shadow ship, and it goes into hyperspace. And it's like, okay, what are these shadows up to? Something's up. And then again, like I said, this is still Act 4. This episode is not over yet. Sheridan, Delenn, and Ivanova, they're strategizing about the shadow's potential response. And Ivanova suspects, like, maybe they're leaving us alone on purpose for like a specific reason. And this really bothers Sheridan. And Sheridan, he comes back, is like, well, something's been bothering me for a long time since Kasha's death. See, a long time ago, he came to me and communicated to me in a dream. And it was a lot of like images. And he's pointing out how he saw Ivanova in his dream. And she said the words, "Do you know who I am?" And they connected that to Ivanova being a telepath. And then he saw an image of himself in a Psychop uniform, and they connected that to them working with Bester. So telepaths are definitely involved in this, right? Then there was an image of Garibaldi where he says, "The man in between is looking for you." They dismissed the idea that it was talking about Sinclair, but as they move on, they're trying to figure out, like, what could this other stuff mean? He saw another image of Ivanova dressed all in black and wearing a veil, like she was in a funeral. And she says, "You are the hand." Ivanova's like, come on now, I just don't get this. Like, what is this? Delenn speaks up. She goes, well, if you think about a hen, you have two of them.
So who's the other hand?
Yeah. But the way she delivered that line was great. Like, you have an equal and opposite, which is great. And so they're asking themselves, like, okay, so who is your opposite, and then who is the man in between? And they figured, like, okay, the man in between, whoever that is, knows who you are. We switch away from that. We come to our final act in the show. We see Franklin. He's back to work, apparently. And he unofficially takes charge of MedLab. Basically, he got stabbed in the gut, so he's like mending still, but he's like chief of staff again. Sheridan offers him his job back, so now that can be official. And this is something that Franklin accepts, and he's showing that he is far more committed to the people in the station, which I'm kind of curious what that looks like. Like, has he truly confronted his Messiah complex too? I mean, especially after nearly dying for literally no reason.
Or does it mean that he's going to actually start balancing his work life?
Right.
His yeah. Is that what it's called?
Well, it's still, he's not going to run away from himself. He was saying that he's going to define himself by what he is, not what he isn't. And that's huge. I mean, granted, that phrase means a lot, but that really does mean a lot. Like, they probably had to put it that way because it's like, look, Franklin got a lot of work to do. We can't convey all of it, but this is pretty good. Like, defining, which I do have a lot of perspective on that too, because when we think about identity, a lot of times people will identify themselves by like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that, I don't like this, I don't like that. And it's like, well, what are you? What are you like? What do you like? Who do you like? Stuff like that. So,
right.
Instead of seeing himself in this negative light, he's going to start looking at himself more in a positive light, accepting who he really is.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, going along with the analogy of his shadow self being more of an alpha male type character.
Okay.
They're always like, well, you got to be this, you got to be that, you got to be this, and you're not a man if you don't fit these categories. And then they're always dick measuring. So if you're not better than so many other people, then you're not good enough, and you got to always kind of be better than everyone else, instead of just being comfortable with who you are and having your confidence in what skills and gifts you do have, and being better than anyone else or fitting anyone else's standards will never make you happy.
Right.
Because it's not possible.
It's not possible.
You can only be yourself.
Yeah.
You can only measure up to yourself. When you compare yourself to yourself, that's reachable.
Yeah.
You can't reach being anybody else because you're not them.
Right. Yes. He's defining himself by what he is and not what he is not, which is great because he's, like we said, he's the greatest human in the whole universe, and it's about time for him to realize that, right?
Yeah, well, he's still kicking himself in the even though he's got so many great qualities, he'll break the rules to make sure people are cared for, and because he does have the skills and he is smart, he does use that to help people, but he never appreciates that in himself.
Yeah. Yep. So now we're getting close to the end of the show. They crammed all of this in. So we see someone has arrived on the station coming through the docking bay, but we get to see them going through the station from their point of view, kind of a first person point of view. And people keep looking at him, looking at this person, and they're just like kind of weird. Meanwhile, Sheridan and Delenn are in Sheridan's quarters. He is asleep, and she is spending the night with him, watching him sleep, doing the Minbari tradition. And she seems to be extremely content with what's going on. And she's walking around with a snow globe for some reason.
The same one we see in the vision before.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So Zach contacts Ivanova and he's like, "Hey, I need to tell you about someone who just got onto the station." Again, waking Ivanova up out of her sleep. And she's like, "Look, people are always arriving on the station. Whoop-de lottie do." And he goes, "Well, this kind of deals with the captain." And she's like, "Well, what? What can demand his attention?" And he's like, "Well, it's not really a what, but it's about who's on the station." And then we switch back to the quarters. Delenn is walking around with her snow globe, admiring it. The lights are out. Really peaceful mood. The door opens. Walking through is the silhouette of a woman, and she says, "Hello, I am Anna, Sheridan's dead wife." Or Sheridan wife. And Delenn, shocked. She's in shock. She is in awe. And in slow motion, just like her vision of the future, she drops the snow globe. And it shatters on the ground. And as the show goes off, it says Z minus 2 days. This is a shock. This is definitely a shocker. Instead of us being able to sit and enjoy a victory, we're like, what in the world? Sheridan's wife who died on an archaeological mission of Zahadum? What is she doing back? How did she get back? How does she know to come straight here? How does she get in? Why is she doing this? This is the second to last episode of this season. What is going to happen next?
This was very soap opera of them.
It absolutely is. But again, I have to reiterate, they crammed in probably 3 episodes worth of story into 1 episode. And it didn't go super smoothly, but I think it worked out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, did you catch that part about Sheridan's wife coming?
Yeah, I was suspicious if she was like real. Like, are you some kind of clone? Are you a plant from an enemy? Is this some kind of trapper setup? I don't trust her.
Right. Do y'all have any suspicions about what's going on? I know you saw it before, Mel, but it's been a while.
Well, since what's his name? Morton, he worked on the same ship as her at Zahadum.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe she's most definitely, probably in with the shadows somehow. This has something to do with the shadows. And it also comes right after them asking why are the shadows just not attacking.
Yeah.
But they also have other ways of attacking. And they've been trying to get it in on Babylon 5 for a while. Mm-hmm. And that might have something to do with the fact that they might be trying to take over Babylon 5 since they know that Babylon 5 had something to do with them losing the first time 1,000 years ago. Well, maybe not the first time. Who knows how many times they've done this.
Right. That's a good point. What about you, Sunday? Any suspicions?
Yeah, she's a plant. Like, she's some kind of clone. It is a setup.
It's a trap.
Proceed with caution.
Yeah.
And obviously she can't be the real wife because we know that Delenn and Sheridan hook up in the future. So it's not like she's going to split them up or anything. She may even just not be real. Yeah.
But I mean, look at her timing. It's like the night that Delenn decides, like, we're going to escalate this relationship. It's the night Sheridan's wife shows up. And it's like, man, can y'all's relationship survive the dead wife coming back to life after how many years has it been now? It's been several years.
Yeah, she was in the outskirts for like 3 years?
Something like that.
And yeah, and he got sent off right after she left.
Yeah. So
like as soon as he shipped off, that's when he got the news that their ship was destroyed.
So it's like 2 or 3 years at least by now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's wild.
It was when he first got there. He kept talking about being 3 years since he had an orange.
Yeah. She said orange, y'all, not the other O word. An orange. Yeah. We're just gonna walk past that right now. So I don't really have a ton of questions. I think I asked everything. Well, maybe how do y'all feel about Franklin's arc here? He went through a lot, and it seems to come to a resolution. How do y'all feel satisfied about his arc?
Yeah, I really enjoyed like having him go through a super hard struggle, and it seems like, some real self exploration has been done to help him overcome like some of the mental struggles that caused him to fall into addiction in the first place. And hopefully he will be able to manage like the difficulties of the high pressure job that he has during a time of war and all the things, and just be a better asset to Babylon 5 humanity and the like.
Yeah.
I think this is another example of how Babylon 5 was before its time.
Oh,
Because a lot of the mental health stuff that they don't exactly have the same vocabulary for it, but it's all there. And I always theorize that it's mostly been there. Even like ancient practices that were demonized a long time ago fall within a lot of the like shadow work, fall into a lot of the psychology that we now understand behind those things. Whereas back in the 90s or the 80s or even the 2000s, it was ignored as not necessary. And yeah, they didn't fully have the language for it, but this show is not only using some of the language for it, but personifying it and metaphoring it, using it for a metaphor. And I think it went over people's heads. If it was to be reintroduced the right way now, a lot more people would pick up on it.
Yeah, I think too, because there would be a little bit more vocabulary for the writers to pull from to convey some of these messages. So, this is one of the reasons why I was excited for the reboot. But the shuffling at Warner Brothers really makes it sad. Because Warner Brothers, come on, y'all have some of the most popular, some of the most exciting, and the most profitable properties, and y'all don't know how to make any of it work. What? Why are y'all in business?
Yeah. I just saw off subject a little bit, but not really. Stargirl. I've been binge watching Stargirl at work, and at first it's like, oh, cute little kids, superheroes, teenagers stuff, but then it got deep with it still being, oh, cute kids being superheroes. Like they just added so much of that. I found depth in it, and Warner Brothers did such a good job. And I think they could do a good job rebooting Babylon 5 if they got the chance to.
Yeah. Oh, I believe so. As long as J. Michael Straczynski stays connected to it, yeah, absolutely. So, so that's our episode, y'all. We got one more episode for this season, and then we're gonna take a short break. But I don't know if y'all even noticed, because hopefully, by the time we come back from the break, you guys won't miss anything. But season 4 is wild. The reason why it is wild, well, we'll just have to wait until next episode, because some stuff goes down. Like
next time on Babylon 5.
Obviously, it's going to have something to do with Sheridan's wife showing up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then some. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's going to be a catalyst, whatever show.
Yes.
That's how these things usually happen.
So thank y'all for joining us for this episode of Voices in Hyperspace. Be sure to join us and continue the conversation on our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube. Just look for Voices in Hyperspace. I'm Legendary Black Lion. You can find me on Instagram at Legendary Black Lion. Be sure to like, follow, share, all of that good stuff.
I'm Mel Asylum. You can find me and my books on millsrebellion.com. And if you like talking about metaphors and mental health and the world around us, you may like my book, Unrooting the System.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday. You can find me at the poker table.
And we'll see you out there. Peace.